We're going to show you a series of videos in just a moment, video clips, and we're going to lay out what occurred on Saturday night, actually early Sunday morning. But the first thing I would like to say is I can remember growing up when my mother said nothing good happens after midnight. And we would kind of roll our eyes and think, what's she talking about? Well, this afternoon I am going to go over a classic example of why when your mother told you nothing good happens after midnight, you can see that for yourself. This event is very frustrating to me, and the information we give you is really fresh because this investigation started yesterday morning, so we've been in it just over 24 hours. 3 children, 3 teenagers were shot, and 3 children should not have been shot, but they were. And this investigation is still underway. We're in the preliminary phases of this investigation, and make no mistake about it, they made a horrible mistake when they crossed into Polk County, because we are going to do a detailed investigation of every phase of this event and hold everyone accountable that has violated the law. But this culminated at the end of a series of events into an active shooter. And as it's reported to us at this early stage, Osceola County, well, let me back up a step from that. Dr. Phillips had their prom on Saturday night. Jones High School had their prom on Saturday night. Those are both in Orange County. The 3 victims I'm going to talk with you about are from Osceola High School, and they did not have a prom on Saturday night. So when I give you this information, we have a mingling of information that's come to us so far. But with that, let's start so you can understand. The first video we're going to show you was at the Wawa, and we received a call about 2:14 in the morning. And they said there's a mob outside, there's fights, they're stealing drinks, they've got people blocked in, we can't do our normal business. Well, when we arrived 6 minutes later, we didn't find any fights, but we did see a lot of people who were leaving as we were arriving. And the Wawa manager said, hey, I want the parking lot clear. Just let's clear the parking lot because it is chaos here, and they're just coming in stealing stuff. So let's take a look at that. Do you think that they heard the sirens and so seconds later, the parking lot's virtually empty and everyone's fled. The Wawa manager at that point says, hey, things are under control. We saw no fights. We didn't see any fights on any video. We don't know if there were fights. That's still under investigation. But the 911 call that talked about mobs and fights and stealing drinks and people are blocked in and we can't have our normal business flow of traffic, we saw part of that. But 6 months later, we didn't see any fights. So now the deputies leave. And if you have ever had a chance to do a ride along on a Saturday night, they go from call to call to call to call to call. So these deputies are now off in another piece of the northeast area in their district answering calls for service. When we start getting calls from the Azur Resort, AZUR Resort, which is really short-term rentals of loud music and a party. Now I want you to understand the Azur Resorts are circled in red here. The Wawa is in blue. People, when we were arriving and the sirens are going off, people are now getting in their cars and they're taking off and running. But they've all left the area. Apparently, some period of time later, 30, 45 minutes later, they started gathering in the short-term rental area. There was at least one, I don't know if it was Airbnb, I don't know if it was VRBO, but there was at least one rental there that several people came and went from. So that call was called in at about 2:45, 2:55. Of course, now it's in the queue to be answered because we're going call to call to call to call. Then at 3:38, we receive an active shooter. And we'll show you a next clip of what we see. And I'm going to try not to talk while they play it, because when they play it, it feeds back.
This is the
This.
This is cell phone video.
Cell phone video here, and then the next piece it'll feed back on me. Now, if you look real close, we'll play that one more time. If you look real close this time, on the far corner, you can see the muzzle flash of what appears to be a 223 or AR-15. I'll point out the area of the muzzle flash. It's going to be That was the active shooter that we received at 3:38. When we arrived, what we discovered, and I'll go over here and point it out. I don't know if the microphone will pick up. There was a car here, or some people here, shooting up here. You saw the muzzle flash from the AR shooting back here. So here's where the shooting was between two folks, sets of folks. Our victims were in a car behind and had no part of apparently the disturbance at all. They were just sitting in a car. They were all from Osceola High School. They were there at the party, at the event, but there's different pieces of information we've received. There was an argument, there was hollering back and forth, and then the first shots we heard sounded like they came from a smaller handgun, and then you heard the loud reports, and that came from the 223. When we did our follow-up investigation, there were a total of 36 shell casings 33 shell casings and 3 firearms. There were 380, 9mm, and a 223. So there were apparently 3 shooting groups that participated. I want to underscore that the 3 juveniles, the 3 teenagers, the 3 high school kids that were shot had no criminal record, were not troublemakers. They were just where they shouldn't have been after midnight. So obviously, as soon as the shooting started, everybody ran. We sent deputies there. Our first victim I'm going to speak of is an African-American female, 17. She's in high school. She had a graze on her right shoulder and a separate graze on her forehead. It's just the grace of God that she's not dead today. Our second victim, who is an African-American male, 17, a teenager, a high school kid, had shrapnel in one of his eyes. And at this point, we don't know if he'll ever regain vision in his eye. He may be blind in that eye from shrapnel. The third person is described as a Middle Eastern male. He's 18, and he had a slight graze on his forehead. That's his story. I've seen pimples that look worse, but there is a slight mark on his forehead. So I can tell you there's 2 people that absolutely unequivocally got through this by the grace of God. The third one has got a little scuff. I mean, if it came from shrapnel or if it came from a bullet, it was very, very minor. They were in the car. It appears that the car was the backstop for this shooting. So my question is, and there are many, I'm sure you have them, parents, where were your kids at 2:15, at 3:38 in the morning? These are high school kids. The second question I have is, why is it that there's over 100 people here and nobody knows anything? Nobody knows anything. I want you to think about that for a minute. I suppose 100 of them were in the bathroom and the other 25 just arrived after the event was over. That's all I can figure. But we have this magic thing called video. And we're working our way through a lot of video right now. So we know who 3 victims are. We have no idea who the suspects are at this point in time, but we will do our best to figure that out, because guess what? You're shooting at people on video. This should have never happened. And because kids made a poor decision to be out after midnight, they shouldn't have been shot. And how in the world they avoided seriously injuring someone, and I put a caveat there, if you don't know if your vision's coming back, that's serious. How we avoided someone being significantly injured to the point of death, I don't know. We found a 2nd floor apartment with a bullet through the window and into the house. We found bullet remnants that have hit all of the different apartments. We found bullets that have hit vehicles. So it was a shootout. 2 opposing groups, for whatever reason, decided to have a shootout amongst what appears to be 100 high school and very young kids. That's not acceptable. We're not accepting that. Children have the right to be safe, and you can debate all day long whether they should have moved over to the parking lot, should have they have been there. That's not my concern. My concern is somebody had a shootout in a parking lot full of kids. How crazy is that? And we're going to do our best, and we need help. It helps us with the witnesses. So moms and dads, you need to lean in on your high school kids that were there and say, hey, if we don't do something tonight, what's to stop that bullet from killing someone next Saturday night or next Friday night or the next time there's a group of partiers that get together? I can also tell you that we have begged, we have pled, we have coached, we have taught these short-term rentals, these Airbnbs, these VRBOs, and I call them because they're two big brand names, but there are others, and said, don't rent local. Don't rent one night at a time. Don't rent to kids. And they still do it. And then the kids invite their friends, and their friends invite their friends, and the next thing it's on social media. And the next thing you know is you have people show up with guns and start shooting each other. Frustrates me very badly. So with that, let's look through the video. We'll look through all of them one more time, and then I'll answer any questions you have if I know the answers. But once again, we're in the initial stages of this investigation, and certainly anything I say subject to modification as we learn more. But let's look through the videos again. I just can't get over a shootout in a parking lot full of kids.